The secret factory. Look at this leaf. It looks completely ordinary. But inside this tiny piece of green tissue, something extraordinary is happening. Every second, plant cells are capturing energy from the sun and using it to build the chemical energy that supports almost every food chain on Earth. No mouth. No stomach. No kitchen. Yet plants are making food. But here's the strange part, the plant isn't actually eating the sunlight. So what is really happening inside that leaf? How does sunlight become sugar? Where does the carbon come from? Why does the plant need water? And where does the oxygen we breathe come from? Today, we're going inside a plant cell to uncover the amazing science of photosynthesis. And by the end, you'll understand exactly how a plant can turn light energy into stored chemical energy. What is photosynthesis? Let's start with the simplest definition. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants capture light energy and use it to make carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water. In the process, oxygen is released. The word itself gives us a clue. Photo means light. Synthesis means putting things together. So photosynthesis literally involves using light energy to build something. Think of a plant as a solar-powered factory. The sun is the power source. Carbon dioxide and water are the raw materials. The chloroplast is the factory. And carbohydrates are among the major products. Imagine walking into a factory. Raw materials enter. Energy powers the machinery. Workers transform the raw materials. And useful products come out. A chloroplast works in a surprisingly similar way. But instead of machines made of metal, it uses incredibly sophisticated biological molecules. And instead of electricity from a power station, it uses energy from sunlight. The photosynthesis equation 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus light energy C6H2O6 plus 6O2. This is the simplified overall equation for photosynthesis. On the left are the major inputs. Carbon dioxide, water, and light energy. All inputs are low, so the photosynthesis rate is low, none is more available than the others. On the right are the major products represented in the simplified equation. Glucose and oxygen. But don't make the mistake of thinking photosynthesis is simply sunlight goes in, glucose magically comes out. It is much more complicated, and much more fascinating. To understand it, we need to enter the plant cell. Enter the plant cell. Imagine you're shrinking down to microscopic size. You enter a leaf. Inside, you find thousands of plant cells. And inside those cells are specialized structures called organelles. One organelle immediately stands out. It's green. It's filled with internal membranes. And it is the main site of photosynthesis. Meet the chloroplast. If the plant cell were a city, the chloroplast would be one of its major solar energy factories. But the chloroplast isn't an empty green bubble. It has an incredible internal organization. Let's open it up. The chloroplast. A chloroplast has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. Inside is a fluid-filled region called the stroma. And floating within the stroma are stacks of flattened membrane sacs called thylakoids. A stack of thylakoids is called a granum. Multiple stacks are called grana. Thylakoid is one flattened disc. Granum are stack of discs. Grana are multiple stacks. And these structures aren't arranged randomly. They are organized to carry out different parts of photosynthesis. Why is the chloroplast green? The answer is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment associated with the photosynthetic membranes. It absorbs particular wavelengths of visible light especially effectively. Green light is absorbed less strongly than some other visible wavelengths, so more green light is reflected or transmitted. That's one reason leaves appear green. And now comes our first surprising fact. Here's something fascinating: plants don't use all colors of sunlight equally. Different wavelengths interact differently with photosynthetic pigments. So when you look at a green leaf, you're not simply looking at green. You're looking at the result of a sophisticated interaction between light and biological molecules. And this raises an even bigger question: how does chlorophyll actually turn a photon of light into useful chemical energy? That's where the first stage of photosynthesis begins. Stage 1. The light-dependent reactions. The first major stage of photosynthesis is called the light-dependent reactions. They occur in the thylakoid membranes of the chloroplast. Their mission is simple: capture light energy and convert it into chemical energy. But how? Let's follow an individual photon. Step 1. Light hits the photosystem. A photon of light reaches a photosynthetic pigment. It interacts with chlorophyll and other pigments associated with a structure called a photosystem. The energy excites electrons. In other words, the electrons gain energy and become capable of moving through a chain of reactions. Think of it like pushing a ball up a hill. The photon provides the energy needed to move the electron into a higher energy state. Step 2. Electrons move through an electron transport chain. The energized electrons move through a series of protein complexes known as an electron transport chain. As electrons move, their energy is used to help pump protons across the thylakoid membrane. This creates a proton gradient. And now biology gives us another incredible machine. ATP synthase. Step 3. ATP synthase. Imagine a dam holding back water. When the water flows through a turbine, the turbine can generate energy. ATP synthase works with a somewhat similar principle. Protons flow through ATP synthase, and the enzyme uses that energy to help produce ATP. ATP is an important energy-carrying molecule used throughout cells. Step 4. Water enters the story, but the electrons that started this journey need to be replaced. Where do replacement electrons come from? Water. During the light reactions, water is split into hydrogen and oxygen. This process is called photolysis. The electrons help replace those lost from the photosystem. The hydrogen ions contribute to the proton gradient and other processes. And oxygen is produced. Some of that oxygen eventually leaves the plant. The oxygen you breathe. Here's a fact that changes the way you look at a tree. The oxygen released by photosynthetic organisms is connected to the splitting of water during the light reactions. So when you breathe oxygen, you're breathing a gas that is part of a planetary system powered by sunlight and photosynthesis. But we're not finished. The light reactions have produced two extremely important energy carriers: ATP and NADPH. Now the plant has energy. But it still needs to build carbohydrate. And that's where carbon dioxide enters the spotlight. Where does the carbon come from? When we ask where plant food comes from, many people instinctively say, the soil. But there's a major misconception here. Minerals and water come from the soil. But the carbon that forms the backbone of carbohydrates comes primarily from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide enters the leaf through tiny openings called stomata. Think of stomata as tiny doors in the leaf. They allow gases to move between the leaf and the surrounding atmosphere. Once carbon dioxide enters the leaf, it can reach photosynthetic cells. And eventually, it enters the reactions of the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle, building carbohydrate. The second major stage is the Calvin cycle. It occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast. Unlike the light-dependent reactions, the Calvin cycle does not directly use photons to drive each reaction. Instead, it uses energy and reducing power supplied by molecules such as ATP and NADPH produced during the light reactions. The Calvin cycle can be understood in three broad phases: carbon fixation, reduction, regeneration. Let's simplify each one. Phase 1, carbon fixation. Carbon dioxide enters the cycle. An enzyme called RuBiCO helps incorporate CO2 into an organic molecule. RuBiCO is one of the most important enzymes in photosynthesis. It helps begin the process of converting inorganic carbon dioxide into organic molecules. Phase 2, reduction. Now ATP and NADPH provide energy and reducing power. The molecules are transformed through a series of reactions into a 3-carbon sugar called G3P. G3P is an important product because it can be used as a starting material for the synthesis of carbohydrates and many other organic compounds. Phase 3, regeneration. But the cycle can't simply stop. Most of the G3P is used in reactions that regenerate the carbon dioxide acceptor molecule, RuBP. This allows the cycle to continue accepting more CO2. A smaller portion of G3P can leave the cycle and contribute to carbohydrate production. The glucose misconception. And here's an important detail that many introductory diagrams hide: the Calvin cycle does not simply spit out a 6-carbon glucose molecule every time it turns. Instead, it produces 3-carbon molecules such as G3P. Those molecules can then contribute to the synthesis of larger carbohydrates, including glucose and sucrose. This distinction matters because photosynthesis isn't a simple assembly line. It's a network of carefully controlled biochemical reactions. The raw materials of photosynthesis. Let's stop and identify exactly what the plant needs. Raw material number 1, carbon dioxide. CO2 comes primarily from the atmosphere. It enters through the stomata. Its carbon becomes incorporated into organic molecules during carbon fixation. Raw material number 2, water. Water is absorbed by the roots. It travels through the xylem toward the leaves. Water supplies electrons during the light reactions and contributes hydrogen ions to the photosynthetic process. Input number 3, light energy. Light comes from the sun. Photosynthetic pigments absorb the light energy. That energy drives the light-dependent reactions. Quick quiz 1. Which of these is a raw material used directly in photosynthesis? A. Carbon dioxide. B. Oxygen. C. Glucose. D. ATP. A. Carbon dioxide. What does photosynthesis produce? So what comes out of this incredible biological factory? There are several important outcomes. Product number 1, carbohydrates. Photosynthesis produces carbohydrate building blocks such as G3P, which can contribute to the production of sugars including glucose. These carbohydrates can be used for energy, storage, growth, cell structure, and the production of other organic molecules. For example, plants can convert sugars into starch for storage. They can also use carbohydrates to build cellulose, an important component of plant cell walls. Product number 2, oxygen. Oxygen is generated during the light-dependent reactions as water is split. Much of this oxygen can diffuse out of the leaf through the stomata. That oxygen becomes part of Earth's atmosphere. Why does photosynthesis matter? Photosynthesis is far more than a plant process. It affects entire ecosystems. Plants, algae, and photosynthetic microorganisms capture energy and carbon that support food webs. A grass plant is eaten by an insect. The insect is eaten by a bird. The bird may be eaten by another animal. The energy originally captured from sunlight has entered the ecosystem through photosynthesis. Even when we eat plant products directly, we're consuming organic matter produced by photosynthetic organisms. And here's the truly amazing part: if photosynthesis suddenly stopped across Earth, food webs would eventually collapse, atmospheric oxygen production would stop, and the global carbon cycle would be dramatically disrupted. Photosynthesis isn't simply how a leaf gets its food. It is one of the major processes that makes complex life on Earth possible. Photosynthesis is not always running at maximum speed, but there's another fascinating question. If plants need sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, does more of everything always mean faster photosynthesis? Not necessarily. Photosynthesis is affected by environmental factors. For example, light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, temperature. Water availability. If one essential factor becomes limiting, photosynthesis can slow down. Imagine a factory with 10 machines. But one machine has no raw material. The entire production line can be limited by that missing resource. Plants face similar constraints. Quick quiz 2. Which organelle contains the main structures where photosynthesis occurs? A. Nucleus. B. Chloroplast. C. Ribosome. D. Lysosome. The answer is B. Chloroplast. The complete story in one journey. Let's follow the entire journey one final time. The story begins with the sunlight energy travels to Earth. A leaf captures that light using photosynthetic pigments. Inside the chloroplast, the light-dependent reactions take place in the thylakoid membranes. Water is involved in the light reactions. Electrons move through an electron transport chain. ATP and NADPH are produced. Oxygen is released. Then we move into the stroma. Carbon dioxide enters the Calvin cycle. ATP and NADPH provide energy and reducing power. Carbon is incorporated into organic molecules. G3P is produced. And these molecules can contribute to the production of carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates can then support plant growth, energy storage, cell construction, and food webs. Final quiz, can you get all three? Question 1. Where do the light-dependent reactions occur? Answer, thylakoid membranes. Question 2. Where does the Calvin cycle occur? Answer, stroma. Question 3. What gas provides the carbon incorporated during photosynthesis? Answer, carbon dioxide. Bonus question. Question 4. Where does the oxygen released during photosynthesis come from? Answer, water. So remember these 5 ideas. Number 1. Plants capture light energy using photosynthetic pigments. Number 2. Photosynthesis occurs mainly in the chloroplasts of plant cells. Number 3. The light-dependent reactions occur in the thylakoid membranes and produce ATP and NADPH while generating oxygen. Number 4. The Calvin cycle occurs in the stroma and uses ATP and NADPH to help incorporate carbon dioxide into organic molecules. Number 5. The products of photosynthesis include carbohydrate products and oxygen, while the process uses carbon dioxide, water, and light energy as major inputs. The next time you walk past a tree, stop for a moment. That green leaf isn't just sitting there. It is capturing sunlight, moving electrons, splitting water, building organic molecules, storing chemical energy, and helping power an entire ecosystem. All inside microscopic structures that are invisible to your eyes. So here's the question I want you to think about: if plants didn't exist, how long could life on Earth survive? Put your answer in the comments. And if this video helped you understand photosynthesis in a way your textbook never could, subscribe to the channel for more biology explained with simple science, visual storytelling, and fascinating facts. Until next time, keep questioning, and keep exploring the science of life.